Awesome. Okay. So welcome everybody to joining us for another Facebook Live event. My name is Amanda Devison. I am the first VP of Business and Professional Women of Greater Moncton. Our overall mandate is to help women in the Greater Moncton area connect, learn, grow, and advocate. So we're trying to bring a variety of topics to you guys, especially now in this interesting time we're living through with COVID, but more people than ever are consuming content online. And so we want to be here with you in the comfort of your home. So joining me tonight is Liane Landry-Dupuis, and she's going to talk to us a bit about retirement investment considerations for women and why they are different than men. So to tell you a little bit about Liane. So Liane started in the banking industry in 1988, and she thought it was just going to be a job to help her pay for university. And little did she know, she actually found her lifelong career. So after graduating from U to M with a marketing and management degree, Liane started at the RBC Advice Center, which was newly opened in the Moncton area. From there, she moved into the branch network and worked in several different roles, including branch manager. In 2012, she decided to join the RBC insurance team, and she loved providing advice to clients on how to protect themselves and their families. It was during her time as regional director for RBC Insurance that she dove into the financial planning side of things and discovered a true passion there. She returned to personal banking in 2018 and has continued to help her clients protect their wealth while preparing for an eventual transition into retirement. Liane is married to her best friend and has one daughter. She's actively involved in her community and loves volunteering for a wide variety of organizations. So please join me in welcoming Liane to our event this evening. Welcome, Liane.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I truly appreciate the opportunity. And yes, so I think with this new environment we have, it's great to have these opportunities to still be able to connect and have a chance to see what's out there and learn, and for me to be able to share some of my passions. So women in investing is really one of my passions, because I realize that for us women, things are very different. We have different journeys and we look at things differently. So I thought this would be a great topic to cover tonight. Oh, I guess I forgot to do the PowerPoint as well. So here, let's get this going too.
No worries. There, you should have control of the screen now.
Okay, perfect. So as Amanda said, I'm an accredited financial planner with RBC, and my focus really is on investing and retirement planning. So those are my two babies that I take care of. I became a financial planner because when I started back in banking, I would see some people coming up to me from all walks of lives and all different types of backgrounds and careers. And, you know, I would see some people that I didn't think would be able to accumulate wealth, but they were in very financially comfortable position. And the other ones that you expected them to have wealth, either because of level of education or position they were holding, didn't do so well. So it kind of really got me thinking and curious about how some made out so well and some others not so much. So over the years in my career, I kept coming back to being able to help and guide people basically for that. So a few things that for women is a little bit different. We have a longer life expectancy and generally shorter careers with lower incomes. So this is a double whammy known as the gender retirement gap, and it's a reality for women. Despite some improvements over the years, we're still the ones who sort of fall into that one there. We have longer expectations, shorter career for many different reasons, and we may not have the same opportunities to accumulate as men would typically do. One of those reasons, it's simple. We are the ones who carry our babies, and therefore we will take our maternity leaves. So that takes us out of the workforce. We're no longer contributing to CPP during that period of time. And at the end of our career path, that can affect us considerably in the amount of CPP that one could obtain. So that's just an example. So if we go here, all right, whoops, one too many. Sorry, getting used to this new technology. So the other reality, and I mean, as much as equality, and we're hearing a lot about these in the past, 8 months as well, especially, there's still a spread between what women are actually receiving as income versus a man who's doing the exact same role, same qualifications. So for every dollar that a man will earn, the average is 88 cents for women. So again, even though we're moving in the right direction, that gap is getting smaller and smaller. Nonetheless, there is still a gap. So again, this most of the pensions that companies have, it's always based on a percentage of your income. So therefore, right there, we're still, even though we can't contribute the maximum, we're still contributing a little less. And it does impact that over a long period of time. So the other, let's see. Oops. Okay. So women tend to report more financial stress than men. So I think as women, we typically are the ones who will worry about our family a little bit more. We'll worry about the finances. We'll worry about making sure that, we're all well dressed, well fed, we're warm, we're comfortable. That's a mother's approach to things. So that is one reason. So it is a fact that women do lose a little bit more sleep over finances. We have a little bit more anxiety and overall overwhelming stress about the financial side of things in general. A retirement financial plan. So this is what I love to do, is really put all of those pieces together. And I love it when I'm meeting with a client and they tell me, oh, you just took a load off my shoulder because now I see my path, I have my plan. So I think it's even more important for women to sit down and have these conversations with their financial planners. Okay, there we go. Almost half of middle-aged women find savings for retirement to be overwhelming. So women that are, in the 55 and up, earning $100,000 or more, with $100,000 or more in assets, say that saving for retirement can be overwhelming. It's true that creating a roadmap can be daunting if you are trying to do it on your own. As a professional financial planner, I can assure you of two things. The retirement plan is worth the effort, and it's probably isn't as complicated as you think. It starts with a conversation that matters most to you, and only when I understand this? Do I jump in and start looking at the numbers? So that's the approach that I love to talk, is really have a great understanding of what's that picture that you want. What, you know, it is said that there are 5 key questions when we're talking about retirement. One is, how will you spend your time? All of a sudden, we have 2,000 hours more in a year. So, what are you going to do to spend that time? Really, to retire and just to sit on a chair and rock at 60, 65 is kind of not what most of us want to do. So, what are our plans? What is the lifestyle that we've worked so hard to have? The other questions is, how much do I need to retire? It's not a cookie cutter. It's not a certain percentage of your current income. It really comes back to what is that visual of your retirement that you have. So we have a great conversation around that. When should I leave work? Is it 55, 60, 65? What, all the pieces that you've accumulated so far, where is it taking you? What picture is it putting together for you? How long should I plan for? That's another one. We always like to plan for the long term, but in reality, it may not be as long term for as many people. I know my brother-in-law is kind of looking at his retirement in 3 sections. So he's looking at the go-go years, where this is where he's very active. They want to do a lot of things. So this is when they'll probably be spending a lot more money. The next maybe 10 years or so is there's go slow years. So they're going to still do a lot of things, but it's going to be slowed down. And you're probably the next 10 years, 80, 90 and up, this is probably going to be a little bit slower years for you. So your income flow at retirement needs to match these for you as well. So these are a lot of things that we talk about. And where is the money coming from? There's so many sources that you can have at retirement. There's your CPP, there's old age, there's RSPs, there's pensions from your employer, there's the sale of a business, sale of property, tax, TFSAs. How do all of this work together? Where should I start first? So these are things that they're 5 key questions. And these are things that I cover on a regular basis whenever I can sit down and meet with clients and really get into the nitty-gritty of things. So let's go to the next one. I keep forgetting to do that. So how is saving different from investing? Many women were very comfortable with savings, but not so much with investing. And I think investing, it kind of comes back to maybe a few slides ago when we said, where it showed that women have a little bit more anxiety around the financials. It might be, again, also because we may tend to be less risk takers. We care a little bit more. We need to understand a little bit more. So for me, it's really important that you fully understand what your options are, the different level of risks, the different levels of risk depending on where you are in this journey of preparing for retirement or transitioning into retirement. So there's a lot of different strategies that we can bring about. And again, we're going to try to make it as comfortable as possible for everybody to be invested in the right way. Because sometimes we do have to take a little bit of risk. It can be a little bit more of a calculated risk. But sometimes you need to take a little bit of risk to have the returns, to be able to have your funds grow the way that they need to grow, to be able to provide you again with the lifestyle that you're expecting in retirement. If we go to the next one. So women want to work with advisors. It has been determined that about 17% of women have financial advisors, yet 87 say they'd like to work with one. So women are interested. The reasons are really complex and beyond the scope of today's presentation. But I assure you that we as financial planners, we provide you with a very customized financial planning experience. It's true that your financial plan requires commitment on your part as well as mine, but we do spend some time understanding your goals, your resources, your timelines, but I will make it as convenient as possible, including working outside traditional banking hours, meeting you at your home, office, maybe not so much, but we do have a lot of the virtual meeting tools as well. So it can really be a location of your choice. So this is what I really wanted to bring forth today, was some of the opportunities that women have, but also some of the obstacles that we have in getting ready for retirement. We do have a lot of things in our careers that may stop us, or not really stop us, but hinder us from being able to put as much away as a man would. So we really have to approach our retirement planning in a very different manner. There we go. So thank you so much for your time. I'm hoping that this it brought you with a lot of information or a lot of food for thought, and really hoping that you reach out to a financial planner so that you can have that sit down one-on-one meeting and really have it a customized plan for your particular situation. So thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you guys tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, Liane. So I think there was a number of things that stood out to me. So I just kind of want to go back and touch on a few of them.
Sure.
So I think one of the things too that I've read some about this, because if you do something as simple as Google, Women Retirement Canada, you can see all kinds of different articles, and it repeats a lot of the things you're talking about. A lot of the points you mentioned, and that there are a significant number of women that actually rely on their spouse's income. And some of those what if questions are, well, what if your spouse becomes ill and has to leave the workforce? Or what if they pass away? And in most households, more men are deciding where the household money is invested and where it's saved. So once again, if you're not staying informed as a woman, you could, have kind of that thrust upon you. So even though it does cause a lot of additional anxiety for women, there's some big kind of what if implications that can come from it. So I think it's interesting too, because there are a lot of retirement savings, financial literacy tools out there that are free. So that's one thing that people, if they want to dip their toe in, get a sense, again, they could check out some of those articles. Another thing, like you mentioned, is they should really reach out to a financial planner. They should make sure it's someone that's certified in financial planning, so that they know that the person, has had adequate training. All of the large financial institutions would have those designations. There should be no fee associated with meeting with a financial planner. Like you mentioned, it should really be about them sharing their vision before any, product or suggestion or asset allocation is brought forward. It really should be a very thorough discovery session with the financial planner to determine, what does that picture look like? Like you said, if they want to travel, well, what they're going to do is going to look very different than someone that maybe just wants to retire and have a really big garden somewhere, right? So I think that's important to point out to people, that if you do book a meeting with a financial planner and they start talking to you about products and services before you've even described your vision, that, a red flag should go off. Is there any things that you recommend that people do before? Like if they do call and book an appointment, Are there certain things they should bring with them? Is there certain things they should review beforehand? Like what preparation should people do to be ready for that, to get the most out of that first meeting?
Well, like you said, the first meeting is really a discovery meeting. So basically, it's really having put some thought into what it's going to look like. What do you want to do? Like you're saying, is it going to be traveling, or will I be just happy and I can't wait to have my garden and my herbs and take care of all of that? So, absolutely, that's the primary part, and a lot of there's a lot of financial planning tools out there too that to help the conversation along as well if you really don't have that clear picture yet. The other thing, it's not necessary, but it's very helpful for me if during the first meeting that you are bringing in a lot of those documentations. So the assets that you've accumulated to date, current income, pension information, CPP information. Um, Not that I'm necessarily going to be talking about them in the first meetings, but I'm going to gather that information. And it does allow me to start working on the plan a little bit sooner and faster, and maybe discovering questions that I hadn't really come out before. So when I start putting those pieces together, more questions might come out. So it allows me to think a little bit through and be able to go back to my client and ask more questions. So it's great to have those types of information at the first meeting.
Yeah, and I think you're raising another good point there. Some people may not even be aware that there is a government website where you can log in and you put in your information, and it'll tell you based on how long you've been working and how much money you've paid into CPP already, like what your approximate
Exactly. Mhm.
yeah, approximately what you would get paid at this point. So obviously earlier in your career, the smaller that number is going to look. But because, same thing, most people don't really have an idea like, well, what is that check going to even look like from the government? Well, you can actually log in and find out how much you've paid in CPP over your career. And at this point, at this moment in time, what that looks like. So obviously, if you're going to continue working, that number will increase, but at least it'll give you an idea of, well, where are you on that way? Most people don't want to retire. It's not recommended that you rely on CPP or old age for your retirement. It's not a lot of money at all. So that's why it's important to kind of look at some of these other tools. Well, it's our RSPs, or if your
Absolutely.
work has a pension. I think too, like there's just so many gaps that you may not even think of. I mean, obviously, over and over, people talk about the women's pay gap. We know that's a reality, but then when you compound that with women are, we are the childbearing partners, so that automatically, if you have children, it's going to take you out of the workforce. If you have more than one, child, it's longer periods. Women also tend to be the caregivers for elderly parents, so that may also take you out of the workforce for a period of time. And so again, unless you have a plan, so it's because if you're someone who's kind of trying to work through your financial plan, you may make it so that you can still continue towards saving towards your retirement goal. But if you don't have that retirement plan, it's going to kind of go the back burner. And the pay gap and the time out of the workforce and all those things kind of compound. Also, most articles indicate that women tend to save less for retirement, which kind of goes back to what you said, where a lot of people put a percentage. Well, if women are already earning less than men, that 5% of less money is less money, right? So sometimes women might need to take the step back and look at it from a dollar and cents point of view. So yeah, you may decide you're saving X percentage, but is that enough to get you where you want to be based on your salary? And then again, the more risk averse. So if women's savings is not invested in the right type of vehicles, investment and asset vehicles, it's not going to grow as much as a man's necessarily. So those are, again, conversations you need to have with a financial planner so they can figure out where on the spectrum of risk you are, as well as where on the spectrum, how close you are to retirement. The closer you are, probably the less risk you want to have. But it's important to understand that there may be some, there's some risk is a necessary evil, I guess, in the kind of the investing world. And that doesn't mean it's all in crazy stocks. There's a variety of different of products and services. And again, I think, I assume you kind of walk through that point, not again and not in the first meeting, but once you got into that kind of detailed perspective, you'd be able to kind of walk people through what type of vehicles they could invest their money in and kind of have so once, if somebody becomes a financial planning client, and you've had the discovery session, they onboard, they get comfortable with their plan is, how often do you recommend they meet with you, for a touch point or anything like that? So how frequently should someone meet with their financial planner?
I think they should, it's recommended to be a minimum of at least once a year. Now, some clients will say, I want to meet more often. And some will say, well, maybe 18 months is more suited for where I stand. And again, it all depends. So if you're in your middle of the career and from year to year, not too much is changing, you may not need to be meeting with your financial planner on an annual basis, but no more than 18 months between meetings. And that's just a checkpoint. And again, just to make sure that, because there's a lot of things that are happening in the markets, there's a lot of things that are going on. So even just a meeting to kind of chat about, media is talking about all of this. What does that all mean and how does it impact me? Because sometimes you may not be touched at all by any of that, what the media is bringing. So even just to reassure and just to reconfirm that, yeah, things are moving along great and we're on the right path. So let's keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to point out is obviously a lot of media can sensationalize things and it's not necessarily going to have an impact on what people have in their plan. So the more aware they are and knowledgeable about their own plan, the more comfortable they can feel and not have that kind of added anxiety of the news kind of cycle coming at you. The sky's not necessarily falling for you. It may be for someone, but it may not be for you. And I think too, like you said, at least once a year, maybe once every 18 months, or if they've had a significant life event, they probably want to reach out then too. So if they're having children or if a child's going to university or if they're, somebody gets ill or if somebody passes away and they're going to inherit some money, like all those kind of things that are going to change your kind of financial position, it's probably a good time to
that is the perfect. Exactly.
Yeah. So I think kind of some of the takeaways for people, I think, is definitely probably check out the government calculators if you weren't aware of them. If you have an employer that has a retirement plan, but you're not quite sure the details, you might want to meet with the HR department, find out. If you work for someone that has a matching program, make sure you're taking advantage of that. I can't stress that enough. It's free money. It's all you have to do is contribute the same. And they'll match it. So, I mean, if you were guaranteed a return on a certain amount of money, you would probably take that. But a surprising number of people don't take advantage of matching through their employer.
And it's risk-free.
Yes, exactly. It's a risk-free money. So definitely ask those questions. If you're not sure if your employer has a program, ask that question too. I mean, sometimes even asking the question may trigger it in your employer's mind. It may be something they didn't think is important to their staff. And if you broach the topic, it may be something they look into even starting, right? So talk to HR if you work for someone else. If you work for yourself, you really should definitely meet up, I think, with a financial planner because there can be different obstacles in there. And you could have different, priorities and goals, like you said, whether it's business sale or what's the value of the home. So there's different pieces of the puzzle depending on if you work for someone or you work for yourself. But I don't think people should try to tackle either of those on their own. There's people that can help. Even if you work for someone, it's still important to talk to a financial planner afterwards to understand, okay, here's what my employer gives me. And if I contribute this much and they contribute that much, plus I have these other things, what does that look like? Does that get me where I need to be? And if not, what do I need to be doing today to kind of fill that gap. And I think another important thing that people can consider, it could be kind of overwhelming, the thought of, well, if I have this debt and I have kids and I have this and I have that, how could I possibly save more money? But I think also, like, think about those other perhaps unexpected things. Like if you do a tax return and do receive some money back, maybe you make a commitment to yourself that you're going to put the whole amount or half of it or whatever it is, you're going to pay yourself first and save that money and invest it. Or same if you work in a position where there's bonuses, whether it's quarterly or annually or anything like that, make the commitment to yourself and your future that you will take a portion of that and invest it, right? That's unexpected, non-guaranteed money that you're getting, so it shouldn't be part of your regular budget. So since it's icing on the cake, that can help you. You know what I mean? Maybe if you feel like you can only save $20 a week throughout the year, well, this could be an opportunity to kind of top that up, right? So with those unexpected money sources. So I think those are some things to think about for sure. So is there anything you would want to leave our viewers with, of anything else you would want them to consider? Any parting words or anything like that?
Well, I think the important piece is to invest early, invest regularly, and have a plan, because that way you know where you're heading and you know if you're on track or off track. So the sooner that you can have a plan on, certainly makes the journey to getting to your goals a lot easier. So it's those are the tricks of the trade: is invest early, invest regularly, and have a plan. And if you if you start early, the amounts don't have to be huge amounts. Time in the market, time investing is on your side. So take advantage of time, because it can really help you with your investments.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate your time. We'll make sure if there's any questions posted afterwards that we forward them off to you. Feel free to chime in on the comments as well if anybody leaves any questions on our page. And again, I appreciate it. I think it's some great insights and takeaways and things for women to consider. So it's an important conversation to have, and another piece of kind of the puzzle that we're trying to tackle here. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Thanks again, Amanda.
Have a great evening.
You too.
Bye.